Hi, this is John Hawkins Jr. with Gateway Counseling Center. It is our Tuesday night Facebook Live. We do this every Tuesday night at 8:15. So throughout the week, I get emails from you guys, answer any questions you have. Some of them I'll bring them up here on Tuesday nights, so you can ask me questions here on the live at 8:15 every week. So I am a licensed psychotherapist and peak performance coach. I specialize in working with all types of trauma, associated mental health issues, relationships, addictions, and peak performance coaching with some of my favorite work, helping people achieve their max potential. We're a counseling center here in Boynton Beach, Florida. We've been here since, 2008-9, where we do individual, family, relationship counseling, everything from mental health to spirituality to, again, performance, trauma, whatever it may be. Pretty much anything you need counseling for, we're here to help meet the needs. So we have a mission to help as many people as we can, to make as big of an impact as we can, and so we're doing everything we can in every platform, every medium that we can to spread the message of getting people help and again, more than just helping them recover from trauma or depression or anxiety, but also help them live their best life. So you guys can be a help in helping us achieve that goal by anything you find useful or relevant. Pass it on, share it. We want to just keep, like I said, helping as many people as we can. So tonight, something I want to talk to you about is a real common thing for me. It's one of the things that initially inspired me to start doing things like the Facebook Live on Tuesday nights. There is for me like almost an epidemic of undiagnosed PTSD. So for those of you who don't know, PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. It's probably one of the most prevalent things I experience. Most people think of like veterans or firemen, cops, things like this. I would tell you this is a very small percentage of people that have PTSD. The majority of people are people like yourself or me who've gone through experiences that the way PTSD develops and the symptoms it leaves, as residuals, you don't identify it as having PTSD. So probably like 80% of the clients that I work with initially when they get here, they don't know they have it. They keep getting diagnosed by certain symptoms. So that, they get diagnosed as having anxiety or depression, or it's a contributor to like addictions or compulsive behaviors, but nobody stops and really like addresses the underlying PTSD. I've got an article coming out on the truth about anxiety where I really talk about how so much of it is really forms of PTSD. So let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, you need to hit a 7 to get diagnosed as PTSD. But for, everybody under the 7 doesn't mean they don't have traumatic symptoms, but they're not diagnosed as that because most clinicians don't really know how to look for that or tease that out. Any form of chronic anxiety you have is a form of traumatic stress. Because all anxiety is one simple thing. It's an overactivation, or in some cases a chronic activation of what's known as your sympathetic nervous system. So most people know this as like your fight or flight system. So at lower levels, it helps us focus, like perform, makes us alert. When it starts to get higher, right, it's releasing adrenaline into the nervous system to fight or flee. Problem is when it's doing this and I don't need to fight or flee, I don't need that to happen. And so I work like consistently with clients who've been through therapy, through the mental health system, through all kinds of things for years, and in some case decades, and have never been diagnosed. I had a new client this week where because I specialize in that and I've seen so many cases of it, I can pretty much tell like in the first minute or two whether somebody has PTSD or some threshold category of PTSD. And it's very frustrating because the way trauma works and the way it gets embedded in your body, in the brain, it's not something you can just get over or get past. It's like hooks itself in a part of the primitive brain that you can't overcome by just talking about it or getting information or understanding. Usually what will happen, it'll lead to like a couple different reactions. You could either go numb and dissociate, or get flooded with anxiety and panic, or react in anger, or like I said, it drives you towards addictive behaviors, things like that, as a way to regulate all that trauma. And so if there's a significant amount of it, there's no way to internally regulate that. And a lot of times that's, was initially caused relationally, so then that makes it harder to reach for people because I don't trust people. And then if I do, a lot of times they don't know what to do because it's very complex. They get dysregulated, maybe they have their own wounds or traumas, and then your trauma is, triggering theirs. And I see this in my couples work all the time. So again, one category is this, like I said, if you have chronic, recurrent anxiety that doesn't go away, it's a form of traumatic stress, and it doesn't get diagnosed as that. Like, anxiety is not a disorder, but it's a symptom of things that are disorders. So if you look at like what I talk about in this article that I'm getting ready to post, is every bit of anxiety is an overactivation of the sympathetic nervous system. It's adrenaline getting flooded in from your adrenal glands. Now the key is to identify what is causing this chronic activation. And this is caused by these implicit memories that I talk about almost every week, every session with every client, of they get triggered, and they're a feeling. So the feeling that goes with the incident, but they don't come with images or words or facts. So you don't really know often that you're having a memory. So even if you don't feel triggered, somewhere in my nervous system, somewhere in my body, that memory is embedded. And that part of the brain doesn't have a sense of time. So it just keeps activating this system again into like numbness or agitation or this chronic anxiety. If you have panic attacks, I've never seen a panic attack because caused solely by stress. I've seen stress trigger, but it's always, again, one of these implicit memories. It's a traumatic intrusion that floods in and creates that level of adrenaline release. And people get diagnosed as panic disorder, as generalized anxiety, all the bunch of different types of depression, and really the whole thing is PTSD. So, as clinicians, we're really not taught sufficiently about this in school. You have to really go out and invest the time and training and experience working with these clients to really understand it. So, I just see so much needless suffering through misdiagnosis and mistreatment. So if you don't get the right cause, you don't get the right treatment. And so the biggest interventions that most people get, like I said, they get diagnosed with anxiety and they get put on anti-anxiety medications like Xanax, Ativan, Klonopin, all these things. So they're going to lower your symptoms, but they don't go stop what's triggering the overactivation of your fight or flight system. So then you stop taking medications, all the anxiety comes back. Or they're given different like cognitive strategies to try to change the way you think and interpret events, which if it's very mild can work, but for most of my clients it's just going to smoke that and blow right through it, and that part of the brain can't calm the lower part of the brain down. So up until now, that's been the majority of the interventions, is kind of approaching things in those two ways. So now we know exactly what's going on in the nervous system, in the body, in the brain, and how to resolve trauma to get connected to this frozen energy and implicit memories, release it from the body. So myself, other therapists are trained in these type of therapies like EMDR, brain spotting, somatic experiencing, ADP, internal family systems, IFS it's called, and another one I use is called sensory motor psychotherapy. So these are really good research-based models, and again, through my personal experience working with people, are very powerful. It can help free you from this trauma, and then the activation stops, and you don't have to keep living with these symptoms. There is absolutely no level whatsoever of chronic anxiety that you should live with. Every bit of it is resolvable, and I don't care how long you've suffered with it, how many failed treatments you've had. I have compassion for that. I don't mean to minimize like how the suffering you've been through or make light of it. I'm just saying you can resolve every bit of it once you understand what's happening in the brain and nervous system. One thing, it's overactivation of this system. And once you identify and then resolve, release, unhook from what's causing that overactivation, the symptoms stop. The problem is, like I said, it's not getting diagnosed for what it is. So there's just this massive epidemic of undiagnosed PTSD or lower levels of traumatic stress that don't meet criteria for PTSD, so they never really get recognized as being on the PTSD spectrum. So really important. I hope that anyone who's watching this or watches the replay of this shares with as many people as you can. I'm telling you, this is like probably the biggest number one issue that brings people in here. They come in, they have anger outbursts, they have chronic anxiety, they have depression, they have relationship problems, they have addictions. Underneath all of that is almost always this. So there's, other things that can contribute, of course. I'm not saying it's the sole issue, but I'm telling you it is the dominant issue, and it doesn't really get diagnosed and treated correctly. So again, going back to like this, the main reason I'm doing these videos, I had a woman, this new client who had this issue, who I diagnosed with PTSD right away, has been in and out of different treatments for years. And in the first 5 minutes of me explaining stuff to her, she said, I've never heard any of this. So that's always kind of like, it doesn't shock me anymore. In the beginning, it used to shock me. Like, you've been to like 3 decades of therapy and 25 therapists, no one's ever explained this to you. So you can be a part of like helping others tremendously, helping people heal. Just by giving this information, you also give hope that, wow, there's a way to actually heal. Here's why I haven't gotten better. It's not that you're incapable of getting better. It's that I haven't had the correct treatment to change my nervous system and body to release this, blocked energy is what it is, and this frozen implicit memory where I can finally be free from these traumas. So pass it on, share that. If you have questions, email me throughout the week at jonh@gatewaycounseling.com. I respond to everybody's emails as fast as I can, typically same day or within 24 hours. We're here every Tuesday night at 8:15. You can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram at Gateway Center, Gateway Counseling Center on YouTube. We have the Mind Zone group on Facebook as well if you want to interact with other people, share, offer support, all that kind of stuff. So you guys have a great week. I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 8:15 right here. Send me your questions, bombard me. I appreciate all questions. I love interacting with people, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday.